So the streets are talking, Victor.
Hey,
Get him, daddy.
don't you walk on me.
Hello.
Hey Brent, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. How's your day been going?
Good. Just trying to stay indoors as much as possible.
Why? What's
so
the weather
stinking
like?
hot.
Oh, it's too hot. What are you dealing with? What's the temps?
Oh, it's like 110 heat index or some crazy
Holy
thing.
crap!
Yeah, it's upper
That's
90s,
crazy.
but yeah, just super high humidity and all that fun stuff. So it's not very enjoyable to be outside. It'd be different if I was fishing, but only thing I have to do outside are chores. So try to do those later. So,
Yeah, either later or early in the morning before that sun
yeah,
comes up.
exactly.
Right,
Yeah, exactly.
right.
So, but it's all good. Just getting stuff ready. We're leaving later this week to head to Saginaw Bay for our final event.
Hey everyone, before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about something special that we've built at the Brooklyn Fishing Club. Our new membership program is live, and it's the best way to support the podcast and get some incredible perks. When you join, you'll unlock 2 bonus podcast episodes every month, 20% off all gear in the shop, and even a free Brooklyn Fishing Club hat and t-shirt just for signing up. It's only $100 for the year, and it connects you with one of the strongest fishing communities out there. Head to brooklynfishingclub.com and join today. How are you feeling about that?
Not gonna lie, nervous and stressed out as all get out, just because there's so much on the line for that event. Where I'm at in the standings, and there's of all the years of doing this, I've never fished a tournament with so many variables as that one.
Wow.
So, but it's all good. That's what we do.
So you're saying this one coming up, it's got you a little more stress than the average tournament, pretty much.
Well, yeah, and like I said, just because of the variables, and like I said, just they take 29 guys to Red Crest, and I'm the 29th guy right now in the standings for Red Crest. I'm a few ounces in for heavy hitters, and I'm a few anglers in for the overall cut to top 50 next year.
So what do you have to do to win this from the spot that you're in?
I mean, a win for me is going up there, and if I can get a paycheck up there, finish in the top 30, I'll probably qualify for Red Crest, make heavy hitters, and requalify for next year. So but top 20 for sure. If I could leave there with a top 20, I'd feel like I won the tournament. Anything above that would be a bonus, but to win, I feel like I've got a good idea as well. So
for our listeners who don't know, what is Red Crest? What is that?
Red Crest is our championship. Bass has the Bassmaster Classic. Red Crest is our championship for the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour.
Okay.
So I've made a couple of those, but I'd sure like to make the 2026 Red Crest, just because it's a nice little purse to be won there.
Yeah, what is the purse on that?
300,000.
Wow, oh, man. What's the most you ever made in one win?
Most in one win was I've won several times, but 100,000 in one win.
So what does the celebration look like off camera? What are you doing after you win 100K?
I think for me, it's just a kind of a more of a personal, just feel of accomplishment. I mean, it's just one of those things of a sigh of relief. And, when this is what you do for a living, I mean, obviously those big paychecks are what really make a difference in our life, as far as paying off a mortgage or being able to buy a new vehicle or something like that. So, those are what those look like for me, for sure. And my wife reminds me all the time, we have a mortgage that we need to pay off. So that's the goal right now, is paying off our house. So a win would be a big help towards that.
Definitely. What's the closest that you've come to winning a big purse that you just missed?
Oh gosh, there's been a handful of those, but the one that comes to mind, it was a bass event on the Alabama River, and Edwin Evers beat me. But Edwin Evers, he he thought he didn't have as much weight as what he did. And he basically came up and congratulated me when I told him, I said, I got like 14 pounds on the final day at the Alabama River. He's like, well, good job. You got me. And he led all the writers to believe that too. So they're basically interviewing me before we weighed in that I'd won. And Edwin ends up weighing in like 18 something pounds.
Oh my God.
And beat me by just, it wasn't by a lot either, and that was the crazy thing. But, he said he had like 14 pounds and he really had like 18 pounds. So that was probably the most one. That was the one where I was kind of celebrating before it happened. And then when I heard him weigh in, it was just kind of a punch to the gut type deal.
I bet you never celebrated before it happened again.
No, not at all. And that's kind of the neat thing about Major League Fishing with our catch, weigh, release, and our score tracker. We know in real time, and that's one of the biggest selling factors that brought me over here is it's so much more exciting, and there is no time to relax on the water unless you've got like a 20 or 30 pound lead,
right?
Going into it, because minute by minute, where you're at in the standings.
So how'd you bounce back from that? Came so close. They kind of gassed you up. They're like, yeah, you pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things that, it was one of those things where I think it was, mid season, and I had a pretty good year that year that you kind of, you're frustrated for a day or two about it, but you just kind of move on and start thinking about the next event.
Right. You can't get hung up on it at all.
No. And that's one of the things I've learned after doing this for 30 years, that people ask me, hey, which tournaments are you most excited about? Which ones are you least excited about? And, you can't dwell on the past. And I've learned that you can't be overly excited for a particular event, or you can't be dreading a certain event, because it's just amazing. Some of the most excited events I've ever headed to have been some of my worst finishes, and some of my least excited events I've went to end up being some of my best tournaments.
That's crazy. What do you think that's about?
I think it's all about decision making, and probably little subtle decisions that we make in our head. But it really, it's crazy how our sport can be. The difference maker can be like one fish. Like one fish in practice can be the difference in. It can be. The one fish you catch in practice can turn out to be the winning spot.
Right.
Is the type deal. And, some of those things where you go into practice and you catch so many fish or get on such a pattern that you're so dialed into it that if even it changes a little bit, that you find yourself playing catch up because you haven't adjusted soon enough, to where if you have a tough practice, sometimes you're figuring it out as the event happens. And like I said, sometimes just getting one fish clues you in towards the right direction, and then you build off of that and end up having a good event.
That's really interesting. So would you say that nowadays you look forward to the tougher practices because you feel like that might end up
because those are just stressful too.
I bet you're probably like, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like I said, we're headed to the Saginaw Bay next week.
So have you fished this before? You fished this spot?
Yeah, we fished there back in 2023, and I think I finished 20th in that event. I think I got the last place check there or something like that, or 40th or something. Back then they took 40 or something, but I got like one of the last checks in that event. So it was a satisfying event. Obviously would have liked to have done better, but we were up there a couple of years ago, and I got a little bit of experience then, but I actually went up there a few weeks ago after the Potomac River before our cutoff, and spent a little more time scouting up there. They've kind of changed it on us. So last time we were there, we had about 45 or 50 miles of the bay to fish, and they've added, so we can get to more of the smallmouth water, they've added about 15 more miles of the bay to fish. So I think smallmouth are going to be an even bigger player this time than they were last time. But now on that note, before we had live scope, you could fish all three periods, where now we're only allowed to fish live scope one of our three periods. And the big difference is there was a lot of largemouth caught last time, but the bay was extremely low. From what I gather, it was like 2 feet low. than normal when we were there a few years back. Well, it's 8 inches lower than that now. You know, the largemouth that we caught last time were extremely shallow, and now it's even shallower this time. So yeah, it's an intimidating place to go just because of how big it is, and there's so many uncertainties because of the low water. Only having live scope one period, are you going to be able to continue to catch smallmouth the other remaining periods without live scope type deal? So it's going to be an interesting one. And now the other difference is when we were there before, that was the year that they did your 5 best. So you were essentially only fishing for 5 fish. For this one, it's going to be back to every fish count. So every fish over 2 pounds is going to be a player in this one. So it's like cool, I said, there's just a lot. Yeah, I love this every fish counts.
Yeah, I like that too. I like the sound of that.
And yeah, so it's going to be an interesting one. And ultimately, going to Saginaw Bay, my wife and I were just talking about this. She's like, "Well, what is your game plan?" I said, "Well, my game plan for next Monday's the start of our practice is to go fish for smallmouth, but that depends on what the wind does. I won't know that till a few days before practice gets there, if the wind will allow me to go fish for smallmouth. If it's blowing 20 out of the north, you can throw that out the window just because it's like an ocean out there, at least for me."
Are the smallmouth counting as much as largemouth, or how does the point system work?
Probably more. I've done a lot of looking at the past stats of this event and, the fish that were caught. And, the last time we were there, we only had a 1 pound, 10 ounce minimum, but like I said, it wasn't every fish counts. But, on this one, it's a 2 pound minimum. And while you could catch a fair amount of largemouth in the 2 to 2 3/4 range, catching a 3 pound largemouth up there was a really, really good one. A 4 pounder was a giant.
Yeah.
But on the smallmouth end of things, I would say they average more in the 3 pound range, where catching a 4 pound largemouth you're way more likely to catch a 4 pound smallmouth than you are a 4 pound largemouth up there.
Well, let's be honest, catching smallmouth is more fun. So
I don't know. I'll take an old largemouth any day.
I'm just messing around. I love both of them.
Oh, I know.
There's something about those smallmouth, man. I mean, we don't get them too big around us. Like the biggest one I caught recently was a 19 incher. That's like
So here's the way I look at that. If I'm going fun fishing, smallmouth are fun to fish for. But if it comes down to competition and putting fish in the boat, I'll take a big old largemouth on big heavy rods and heavy line any day over having to, fight a smallmouth on light line or treble hooks and jumping out of the water and all that crazy stuff. So
you think it's easier to find largemouth than it is smallmouth?
It really depends on the fishery. Like I said, this one's kind of new to all of us, and it sets up a little bit differently than the rest of the Great Lakes. But like I said, I went up there a couple weeks ago, and I think I kind of got a little bit of an understanding. And I've watched, it's kind of neat with Major League Fishing with the way that they have our events archived. I can go back and watch our live. I can watch 6 days of the previous event. I can watch 8 hours of live from each one of those, and I can learn from that too. So I've watched every single bit of live from our last event there just to get ideas and thoughts and develop a plan for myself. And I know all that will help. And then, like I said, I went up there a few weeks ago and scouted around and got a good idea there too. So, all that helps formulate a plan, but ultimately, what happens next Monday and Tuesday, as far as practice goes, will be a kind of hopefully a building block to lead me in the right direction.
Definitely. So how often do you reflect on like the early days of your career, and what were some of the biggest challenges early on?
I definitely look back at it. I mean, I think the biggest thing looking back, I look at baits, or techniques that we do now. It's like, man, if I'd only had a chatterbait back in the day or a Cinco, how differently things would be, or knowing about a drop shot back in the day, type of deal. But I think the most stressful thing back then was just trying to build credibility, getting respect in the sport, winning and getting enough credentials to where you felt like you made it in the sport.
Yeah.
And once I made my first classic was in 96, I think it was. And, after getting 3 or 4 of those under my belt, where it kind of became routine, I think that's what really helped establish it. And then having my year I had I had in 2005, you were asking about the most I'd won of one event, but the fall of 2005 was awesome for me because in the month of September, I won the Bass Fan Top Gun Shootout in the first week or two of September, which was 100,000. And 2 weeks later, that's when Bass had that special event called the Bush Shootout, which was their heavyweight tournament. The heaviest bag from each event got to go to it, and I won that 2 weeks later, and that was $100,000 a pop.
Wow.
and I'd had a pretty good year and I'd won like 100 and some thousand in winnings plus winning those 2 events. So 2005 was a really, really good year for me, and I think that's what really kind of established me to feel like I was confident enough to stay out here and compete. And then fast forward to 2012 to go out and win, an Angler of the Year title and win an event along the way. That was definitely a solidification. And there's at the time only a handful of people that actually had an Angler of the Year title.
So what was different that season? What was clicking mentally or tactically or?
I think it was exactly that mentally. And a couple of the things that happened in the fall of 2011, I was having a little bit of back pain and stuff. So I made it a commitment to really getting into shape. And I'd say coming into 2012, I was probably in the best shape of my life. But then what happened to start the year was in a Bass Open to start the year. I was fishing some opens also. And that's when, if you won an open, you automatically made the classic. And I happened to win the very first open of the year back in, I think it was late January on Lake Louisville in Texas. And by me winning that event, I'd already made the Bassmaster Classic before our Elite Series season started. So not having the pressure of having to go out and perform and maybe fish a little more conservatively to make the Classic, I went out and I had no pressure on me. And it was just really weird. I fished differently. It's crazy. I'd go, it was awesome. But it was just so strange too, of how things would click. I would go out and have let's say a mediocre practice. And I'm like, that wasn't working. I really don't have anything to lose. I'm going to go do this instead and go out and do something completely different and end up having a really good tournament. And the final one was, the final event when I actually got the Angler of the Year title. I'd went up there to Lake Oneida before the cutoff and got on a decent little pattern, catching some smallmouth on top water, but it was not easy. But when you got big, you get a big one. So I'm feeling good about that. Fast forward a month, and then we go there for our 3 days of practice. Well, the first day of practice at Lake Oneida, I had, I think, like 8 or 10 bites, which really for Lake Oneida is not that good. And, when you're up there and you're fishing for smallmouth, you really got to catch a lot more to ultimately, get a good bag of fish because you've got to cull through them. The next day of practice, that's when we had 3 days of practice. The next day of practice, I went out and I had like 4 or 5 bites. So my practice was not going like I'd hoped. And the final day of practice, you kind of cut it early because you got a meeting and you got to do your tackle and all that. I told my wife, I'm like, well, meet me at the ramp at 3 o'clock or whatever it might be. And happened to just be fishing right out from the boat ramp. And at like 2:55, I hadn't caught a keeper bass all day long. I'm just freaking out. I'm like, I'm going to blow Angler of the Year here at the final event.
Jeez,
and I picked up that top water. Yeah, I picked up that top water and I threw it out that I'd been fishing a month before. And I got one big blow up on my spook. And I was like, well, that's kind of my sign that I just need to go pick this thing up tomorrow and not put it down. Well, fast forward the next day, I was not confident going into the first day of that event. And fast forward, and that's why I was telling you just how that year went. The next day, the first day of the tournament, I go out and I catch like 17 pounds, and I'm in second place after the first day of the tournament with a terrible event, with a terrible practice. So, it was just an amazing year,
It just kept lining up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Down.
Yep, exactly. So, but, and, like I said, that having that year, I mean, it's definitely opened some doors and created some opportunities. And, fast forward, another 12 or 13 years. And we've had some good years and some bad years. And obviously with, Major League Fishing and the Bass Pro Tour, it's a different game we play.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So actually the fall of 2012 was when I got invited to go fish one as an alternate. And I never got to experience it before. And it was rather new, but I got invited that fall to go experience one of the cup events. And the first day of competition that I got to do that, I fell in love with it. With the catch weigh release, every fish counts, and the score tracker. I'm like, I'm all in. This is the intensity level was just so much higher and greater that, like I said, I was sold at that point.
Definitely. How did the pandemic affect you as a professional angler?
It really didn't bother us much. It was actually very fortunate for us when the pandemic hit. We'd actually been building a new home for a year and a half, and it just happened when everything shut down was when we were supposed to move into our new house. So the only thing we were worried about was were builders and people doing the final touches on our house deemed essential workers, and luckily they were. So they were able to finish the finalization of our new house, and we got to move in and spend 6 weeks, hunkered in our new home. So
nice.
it really worked out good for us.
It worked out for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and we
silver
actually
lining right there.
Yeah, we live on 20 acres and have a pond. So most of our friends that live in town and couldn't really get out much, I mean, this was the perfect place to invite our friends out. Hey, you want to come out to the house here and we can social distance, and I got all kinds of projects you can help me with here at the house. so people were eager to come out and help and get out of the house. So it really worked out well for us.
That's great. So
yeah.
You do some hunting too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. What if a person does any hunting at all, and I love to bow hunt for deer, and anybody and everybody that knows anything about deer hunting. I mean, Kansas is one of those popular states.
They got the big. I don't know
fortunate.
much about deer hunting, but I do know Kansas has some big bucks. From
what
I've seen on the internet. We're not talking 12 pointers. We're talking even bigger.
We're very fortunate. Yeah, we're very fortunate here to have some really good quality deer, and I've been fortunate to do it for a really long time and actually own some property. And if I'm not deer hunting, I enjoy just making the habitat better for the deer. So that's something
cool.
that I enjoy doing when I'm not fishing.
That's cool. So you have the trail cams and everything, and you watch.
Oh
them,
yeah. Yep.
So cool,
yep.
Very cool. And you hit them with the bow and arrow. That's very respectable.
Oh yeah.
It's not like you're blowing them away.
No. It's something that, I really love bow hunting. I've found that, going out and pursuing a big buck with a bow is very, very much like tournament fishing. It's just a different. The whole process is the same. If anybody that's ever tournament fished knows that tournament fishing is different from the aspect more than going out for fun. Because if you're going out for fun, it's like you can just pull out an old rod and reel out of the garage that maybe you haven't put new line on in years, and have some bait with old rusty hooks on it, and you'll go out and you'll still catch a couple big ones. It's like that's what can happen. But if you go do that in a tournament and you don't have new line and brand new hooks on a bait, you'll probably go out there and you'll break off a fish or lose a big fish or something like that. And in the world of bow hunting, if you don't pay attention to every detail, it'll ultimately cost you a big buck. If you don't descent all your clothing and, all your equipment, and pay attention to the wind, and if you don't practice your bow religiously and be 110% confident in your shots, it'll cost you a big buck somewhere down the road. So it's one of those things, like I said, when we get out of the tournament season slows down and I shift gears and get to pick up my bow, it's like I just did one thing that I'm really passionate about to another one.
I love it. I've never been hunting.
It's something that I encourage everybody should do for sure.
I know it's tough to pull those bows back. It's tough to shoot those things.
Yeah, exactly. And
you
that's
guys
something
make it look easy.
Well, and that's something too. I wouldn't encourage somebody to go bow hunting as the first hunting that they ever do.
Right.
I mean, if that makes sense, do something where you get a lot more action. I mean, it's no different than fishing. I wouldn't tell somebody go pick up a a Zara spook and go bass fishing and expect to catch a fish on it, because that's something that's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
You're better off, if you've never caught a fish, go use some live bait and
shiners.
just catch a couple fish. Yeah, and then once you get that experience, then you can make it more challenging by switching to lures. And same thing in the world of hunting. I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking a deer with a gun. I mean, the ultimate thing is doing it ethically and actually using the game that you take.
Right. Definitely. So I read that you battled with chronic shoulder pain. Is that accurate?
Yeah, actually that was the other thing.
You never got surgery.
No, I never did. So on that note, back in 2011, like I said, I had a lot of back pain, and I met a guy that's what he specialized, was in pain and posture management. And he helped me with my back pain and got me in really good shape. Well, fast forward 5 or 6 years, whatever it was, then I started having shoulder issues. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't working out like I had been in the past and doing my stretches and exercises, and I started to have shoulder pain, and actually went to the doctor, and he's like, well, you got tendonitis in your shoulder, and we might want to look at doing surgery and all that. And once again, I got with my buddy Travis, and he got me to doing my exercises like I'm supposed to be. And luckily, ever since I got all that cured and fixed, I knock on wood, I really haven't had any issues with it since.
It's amazing.
Yep. So it's amazing what exercising and working out can do, or stretching can do, to keep somebody's body in shape.
Definitely. So your Ozarks fall day box is legendary. Which baits can you not leave the dock without, and why?
What can I not leave the dock and why? Definitely if anybody follows me as a fan, they know it doesn't matter where we go, I'm going to have a bladed jig tied on. Smallmouth, largemouth, north, south, east, west, winter or summer, a bladed jig is a 3/8 or half ounce bladed jig. You got to have tied on. And then I would say, some type of flipping bait, whether it be a jig or a tube or a beaver or something like that. And another one would be a drop shot, just because, that's a bait that just catches largemouth, smallmouth, all season long. So
yeah, it never fails, right?
Yeah, exactly. So those are probably some of my top 3, I would have to say, if I'm going fishing and don't know where I'm going.
One thing we use a lot in New York City is because we have a few lakes in the city. The bass are very finicky, but there's a lot of bass there. But they're like a New Yorker. They've seen it all.
Oh yeah.
The one thing we throw at them that constantly works is the Texas rig Senko. How often are you throwing that?
A lot. That would have been the next thing on my list. Would have been a Senko. Texas rig Senko, a wacky Senko, and something I can say on that is. If you ever watch a pro do a seminar in a fish tank, where you've got the fish in the aquarium or whatever, or I've done a few at a Bass Pro Shops here or there, and it's usually you can tie about any lure on and make a couple casts in there and get a fish to bite just about anything you throw in there. But once they know what's going on, they won't bite it again. But day in and day out, you can throw a wacky Senko or a Texas rig Senko in there, and it's like they'll just keep biting it. It's like that's the
amazing.
One bait that they will bite it. They'll swim around with it for a minute or two. They'll spit it back out, and you'll throw it back in there, and they'll bite it again and do the same thing. It's the only bait I've ever seen them do that with. So that crazy stick worm, I guess you'd call it, that doesn't look like much. I mean, it's just amazing. And I even mentioned that earlier. If there was something that I wish I'd have known earlier about in my career, it would have been that bait.
Wow. And when you're retrieving that on the Texas rig specifically, are you doing it super slowly? Because that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the fishery. Yeah, I mean, on a heavily pressured lake like that, I'd even encourage people. Yeah, Texas rig is great, but use it without a weight. That's ultimately how it was intended to work, was without a weight, that really, really subtle shimmer to it. So, if you get into the tough situations, using it without a weight or rigging it wacky style to where it's wacky rigged would be even more finessey, if you ask me. But ultimately, when it comes to fishing any kind of stick worm like that, like a Senko, is the slower the better is usually what it takes to have good results.
Yeah. So I guess I was confused. The Texas rig, that includes a weight? Because what I thought a Texas rig was the way you hook the Senko, and that was it.
Well, yeah, I guess you could call it that. Yeah, just if it's threaded through there where it's weedless and all that, I guess you could call that Texas rigged as well. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
With a weight or without the weight. Yes.
So what's the other one? What would that be? A split shot?
Wacky rigging is where you take an open hook
and just put it through the middle, right?
Through the middle, yeah, and it kind of has that weird wiggle. I mean, it looks like the most. It looks like the most unrealistic way to fish a bait in the water.
I know, it looks like something out of a cartoon.
Until you see it in the water and you're like, oh, looks really, really natural when you do it like that, you know?
Right. What are some of your favorite colors?
Probably watermelon red flake.
Classic.
Yeah, watermelon red flake works everywhere, and
That's
green
awesome.
pumpkin.
I knew I was doing something right.
Yeah. Then black and blue. Black and blue is kind of an overlooked color.
Black and the sparkling blue.
Flake. Yeah,
that's what I use. Those are my two colors.
Yeah,
I'm so excited right now. Those.
So there you go. Yes. Yeah, so you're doing something right.
Something right. God.
The natural lakes of like upstate New York and then down in Florida, where you get more of that tannic looking brackish water.
Yeah,
that's where your black and blues really work well. Lake Champlain comes to mind on that. It's been many, many years since I've been there, but like the Hudson River would be good for it. But then if you get into the more crystal clear type water, that's where your watermelons and watermelon reds and stuff like that work.
Okay, cool. I was actually using it the opposite way. I was using the watermelons in the dirty water of Prospect Park, but then I was using the black with the blue flakes in the deep reservoirs. I don't know.
Well,
it was working.
And you're probably still having success, right?
Yeah, I was doing good.
Well, see, and that's the thing too. We all think that it has to be a certain way. That's just a good fishing tip is, if it works for you, that's the most important thing. There are no exacts in this sport of bass fishing or sport of fishing in general. There's always exceptions to every rule.
Definitely. Speaking of tips, did you ever have like a mentor or somebody that guided you along the way?
Probably my dad early on.
Okay.
He definitely got me into loving fishing, and that's what him and I grew up doing. I mean, we would fish for anything that we could that swam in the bodies of water. And what's kind of interesting now, fast forward a very long time, is my son. My son, who's 21 now, he's teaching me a lot of things about fishing.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is my son, he could be out here competing with us today. He actually has had some really good success as a co-angler in the Toyota series, but he's so into fishing but he's so into the Japanese side of bass fishing, your Shimano's, Daiwas, Mega Bass, all that stuff. He started studying Japanese, and he actually went to Japan last fall and did a semester abroad in Japan. So he's teaching me a lot of new techniques and ways of catching bass. The Japanese kind of reminds me of what you were saying about fishing in New York City is they get a tremendous amount of pressure. Well, same thing in Japan. They have some decent fisheries over there, but they get a tremendous amount of pressure. So you got to be very creative and come up with new techniques to catch fish. Well, that's where a lot of these techniques have come from that people are using here in the States. And he's been teaching me that now. So it's a kind of a family affair when it comes to mentors.
That's awesome. That's so
cool. Exactly.
You think he's going to follow your footsteps and end up on the pro circuit?
No, he kind of pursued it for a little while. Our sport has changed so much. It's not so much about how good of a fisherman you are or how many tournaments you win, because it's really become about social media.
Yeah.
And being an influencer there. And he really didn't grow up in that world. And while there's a lot of great that comes out of social media, he sees that there's a lot of not so good in it. And
he's right.
It's just really not his thing. And honestly, if I was going to tell a young angler, hey, what do I need to do to succeed out here? Obviously, you've got to be good enough to compete and win tournaments. But more importantly than that, you better be good at social media.
Wow.
Even
more important than that.
Oh, well, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, my job so I guess the biggest thing that's changed since the pandemic, before the pandemic, my job was a professional bass fisherman. And I still call myself that. But the reality of it is now I'm a social media influencer. And my biggest competitors now aren't the other anglers that I compete against. It's the social media influencers out there.
Right.
And on that note, while I'll say there's a lot of great ones out there, I'll tell if they're new people to fishing, really study who you're learning from and learn what their credentials are before you learn from them.
Yeah.
And the one
definitely.
thing I can say about us professional bass fishermen that have been out here competing on the tournament trail for many, many years, we've had to prove our credentials against other anglers and have success in the tournaments, where there's a lot of influencers out there that can go make a really good video that makes a lure look like it's really good because they have some exceptional body of water that never gets fished, or they can spend days to make one little 5-minute video look really pretty. So be careful. You know, I tell people all the time, be very careful of where you're learning your fishing knowledge from.
No, it's crazy. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's guys that I could think of right off the top of my head that probably just started fishing maybe 2 years ago, and they're already somehow an influencer. And
yep, it's because they're good. It's because they understand that world of social media.
Yeah,
and they can make a video look good, but nothing against them. You don't see their names out in the tournament world or being able to compete. You'll see
Not
a handful that
chance.
get out and try to compete in the tournament world, but it's a whole different ball game out here. So I try to tell people is really follow the ones that have success out on the tournament trails, and I think that's where it may not be as pretty, but it's going to be more genuine, I guess you'd say.
Definitely. I had I was in touch with this one guy who was doing a bass tournament on Okeechobee, and he had his partner or whatever that was going to be the co-pilot. What do you call it when you have the co-angler? Co-angler.
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
co-angler. His co-angler, who was the influencer, wanted to know if he could bring live shiners.
Well, he could, but that's probably not going to go over well with the organization.
Not at all. Not at
Yeah.
all. So yeah, when was the last time you caught some fish with live shiners?
Yeah, it's been a very, very long time. So
That's funny. What's your favorite lure of all time? Like if you had to throw one forever and just
it'd be a bladed jig. I mentioned it earlier, and it's kind of my deal. It's just such a versatile bait. I wish I would have got on the bandwagon much earlier when it first came out on the tournament scene.
When you say bladed jig, do you mean a blade bait? Is that what you mean?
No, it's like a chatterbait. You know, there's so many different types of chatterbaits now, but the chatterbait, you know, those type of baits are hard to beat.
Isn't a chatterbait top water?
No, it's a vibrating jig or bladed jig is what they call it. So you basically throw it out and wind it in.
Okay.
And that's what makes it so good is it's easy to fish. You can fish it, you know, in a foot of water or 10 feet of water, and it catches fish in the heat of the summer or the coldest parts of the winter even.
See,
it's just, I've never seen such a versatile lure.
I'm going to get roasted by the listeners. They're going to be like, you don't know what a chatterbait is? Listen, I'm trying to, I interview everybody, pro bass guys, salt guys.
You're being honest at least. So that's the main thing. And you're learning.
Yeah.
But yes, if you want to go back, if you're going bass fishing anywhere you're going and you don't have a chatterbait of some form tied on, you're missing out.
Okay. I'm going to add it to my...
You're leaving fish in the water.
All right.
So
add it. I got it.
There you go.
Definitely. How do you feel about the blade baits for smallies? You think they work pretty well? That's what I got my last
honestly, I got to be honest with you. I can probably count on one hand the amount of fish I've ever caught on a blade bait. Okay. They're not a big bait for us here in the Midwest.
Gotcha.
I know they throw them up north a lot, and from what I've always been told, a blade bait is more of a wintertime bait for the smallmouth and largemouth and stuff. So, you know, we've never been up there when that's really a key player for us in our competition.
Gotcha. That's interesting. See, we're from two totally different worlds, brother.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it's awesome. So let me ask you this. Hold on a sec. We talked about the social media. You already hit that on the head. I mean, what are you doing to get better at social media? Do you have like a way to get better at it? Because if you do, let me know.
It's just a net. I mean, it's just a never-ending battle. I mean, that's what's so crazy about social media is my social media manager is my manager in everything we do. It's my wife, so it's something that her and I have learned as we've tried to learn as much as we possibly can. But what just is so crazy about that world is we can work on a really cool fishing tip that I feel like is valuable, and we can spend a lot of time, and she'll spend a lot of time editing it, and it hardly gets any views. And then we'll put some crazy video out there of my dog jumping in the water while I'm trying to fish, and it gets a ridiculous amount of views. So that's the one that is so hard to figure out.
And then you do all that, you put in all that time to do that video and put it together, and you're like, I got no views. Like,
yeah.
Why should I put another one together?
Well, and I think that's the hard part too. Is it's kind of frustrating in that world. Is when you look at you work hard at it, and you put something out there that is very valuable information, and then, like I said, the competition that we have out there is you'll see something in social media, and you'll see some video that gets a lot of views, and you're like, that's not right.
Right.
They're teaching you wrong. They're teaching people wrong. I mean, it's not saying that it's totally wrong, because everything will catch fish, but ultimately there's a better way to do it than what they're showing. And I think, and that's what I was touching on earlier, as tournament fishermen go, we're going to tell you what works if it works in a tournament setting in competition, when guys are fishing for hundreds of thousands of dollars. If it's something that'll work, then it'll work when most people are just out trying to have fun.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, I don't know. We're still trying to figure out this world of social media. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a day by day thing, because it also changes every 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
There's a new trend or a new song to post with your video.
Yeah.
And I really can't keep up with it. I try my best. I post stuff to my stories and.
Oh yeah.
Hey everyone, just a quick break to remind you about the Brooklyn Fishing Club membership, because this isn't just another fishing club. It's a full experience. Here's what you'll get when you join. 2 bonus podcast episodes every month, 20% off all gear in the shop, a free hat and t-shirt when you sign up, guided trips, invite-only club events, online seminars with special guests, and access to VIP destination trips. All that for just $100 a year. That's less than a weekend tackle run, and it supports the podcast so we can keep bringing you stories from the water. Sign up now at brooklynfishingclub.com and become part of the crew. I know you're out on the road a lot, right? For these tournaments.
Oh yeah.
How do you balance, or how have you balanced over the career, balancing life on the road with life at home and keeping everybody happy?
Well, that's a good story from the Chapman side of things. My wife and we got married in 2000. I was fairly early in my career as a professional bass angler, and my wife had got out of college and had a pretty good job. And obviously at that point, it's most important is paying the bills and, keeping our heads above water. But early on realized that, the number one part of a marriage to succeed is by being together. And, when you're not together, you're growing apart. And I told my wife, I said, you need to quit your job and you need to travel with me. And it's like, how can we afford that? And I'm like, well, we'll figure it out. And my wife quit her job, has a communications degree. And it was really I think a really good fit for us, because she took over a lot of the business side of it, which she understands and communicates better than I do, where she was able to do that, which would allow me more time to focus on fishing. Fast forward to 2003 and 2005 is when we had our kids, and it wasn't much longer after that when they got old enough and were starting to start school. Well, before they started school, we were traveling in a fifth wheel, and basically just traveling family. When we were on the road, we were in our little house, fifth wheel, and we were home. But the kids started school and did that for about a year or two, and found out that was very difficult, and didn't love everything about the public schools. And at that point, my wife, she started homeschooling. So our kids got to travel the country, go on a whole lot of really big field trips, and they were homeschooled and got to travel with us. So
that's amazing. They're probably smarter than the average kid by 10 times.
It's been one of those things that back to the social media world. I mean, if we would have started a YouTube channel or documenting the travels of what we did early in our family and some of the field trips my kids got to go to and see. I mean, my kids at 10 and 12, they had been, I think, in 44 different states. And
that's amazing.
Most of that was traveling in a fifth wheel. So
it's so badass, dude.
Yeah. So now fast forward, they're, what are they, 20 and 21. So now they're going to college, and now it's kind of back to my wife and I again, just doing it ourselves and all that. But it's been an interesting adventure for sure.
That's amazing, man. They should make a movie about this.
So, exactly.
My next question was going to be, what have you personally sacrificed for this journey that you've been on? But it seems like everybody came with you. You had the family with you, I think solid, like
right.
Good old fashioned run.
For me, I don't feel like I've sacrificed a lot. I feel like my family's had to sacrifice a lot for me on that. And what I mean by that is I think ultimately we wouldn't change anything. And I don't think my kids would change anything they didn't have the normal upbringing of going to, a public school or going to school 5 days a week. My daughter thought she wanted that. She actually went to school for about a semester and realized, hey, mom was right. Yeah, I don't like this.
Yeah.
But I'd rather do schoolwork and hammer it out 3 or 4 hours in a day and then have the rest of the day to go on adventures instead of this, 8 to 4 deal every day.
Sounds amazing. Wish I was raised like that.
But yeah, so I feel like they missed out a little bit on that type of stuff. And my son, I mean, kind of the drawback there is my son, I'd love to fish buddy tournaments with him. Unfortunately, most of the buddy tournaments when we were growing up, I can't fish them because they won't allow pros to actually fish the event. So
that's rough.
That's been a kind of a hard deal there too. But I'd say ultimately, I'd say they've enjoyed it and it's all worked out good. And I mean, they're growing up to be amazing, adults, young adults, and they're starting to get their life career paths, headed in the right direction. So couldn't be more proud of that as well.
I mean, what's better than that? Being proud of your kids.
Yep.
It's literally what every father, every man wants to be. So you did it.
Yep. I mean
the fishing is just icing on the cake.
Yeah. As far as the accomplishments I've had in the fishing world, they've been awesome and amazing. But the best compliment, my wife and I get as parents is when another adult comes up and they compliment you on your kids of how well behaved they are and how they have a good conversation. And like I said, my wife was always stressed out when she was homeschooling the kids if they were learning and doing well. But then when you talk to people, you really feel like, okay, we're doing the right thing. And she tests them, does the assessment testing, and they're right up at the top. I'm like, see, honey, you're doing fine.
There you go.
Yep.
That's it. She sounds like an angel, bro. You're so lucky.
Yep. Oh yeah. I've got an amazing one.
Let's give her a shout out. What's her name?
Yes. Bobby. Yep.
Bobby?
Yep. Bobby.
Shout out to Bobby.
Yep. Bob. Shout out to Bobby. Yep. And you know what's even amazing is
Bobby's the reason we're even having this interview.
Bobby is the reason we're having the interview, and I'll put Bobby up against anybody in the world with back in a boat trailer too.
That's awesome.
Yep.
She could hold it down.
Yes, without a doubt.
That's amazing. That's amazing, man. So what's next? Besides Lake Saginaw or Saginaw Bay, right?
Yep. Yeah.
What else are you trying to accomplish with your career?
Well, when we wrap up Saginaw Bay here in a week or two, obviously that'll be the end of the 2025 season. Other than I think there's a couple team events this fall, and you got to end up being in like the top 24 of the points. And I came up just a little bit shy of that to being a captain, so I missed out on the first team event. And we've got another draw for another team event at this next event. So I'm hoping if I get drawn for the secondary team event, that'll be a good thing. That's late in October. And I've also qualified for there's a special event in October that what's that called, sweetie? There's a special event that they're doing in October for any of the pros out there that have the right credentials to fish an event at Lake Gunnersville in October, and the winner gets $500,000 World Fishing Championship, or I think there's going to be like
That's
300
crazy.
anglers at it. But I mean, it's be one of those things that
when
could
is
go down
that?
there and win $500,000 in October, I believe.
$500,000.
Yeah, yeah. So
What lake
so
is that on?
Lake Gunnersville.
Where's that?
Lake Gunnersville is in northeast Alabama.
You fished it before?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's one of the best bass fisheries in the country.
Okay, so a lot of these guys that are going have fished it before.
Oh yeah. There's
Okay.
probably every pro that's qualified for it has probably fished there at least a time or two, and
Wow.
there's going to be a lot of the locals that fish there and live on it that are going to have qualified for it too. So
Oh man,
it will
that's
be a
gonna
well-earned prize. But the really cool thing is the big controversy of forward-facing sonar, and
tough.
some people love it, some people hate it, but that event is actually going to be a no forward-facing sonar
Ooh,
event.
I love that.
So
I
it's
love
going
that.
back old school. Yeah.
Let's
So it
go.
won't be guys staring at a screen. It's
Let's
going to
go.
be, yeah. So that'll be an interesting way to see how it plays out.
Do you feel more confident knowing that there's no sonar involved?
I like that aspect because I know it will be an old school way of fishing. I guess, if I had to take a stance on it, the live scope technology out there is absolutely amazing. It's changed our sport. It's changed fishing. It's an amazing tool to learn from, and will make everybody a better fisherman without a doubt. But I'm excited to go fish an event where it's not going to be in play, because we're going to be forced to fish more intuitively and wondering what's at the end of your line instead of staring at a screen, knowing that you're throwing at a fish or not.
Right.
And I think it's going to be a lot of interesting to see the old school guys battle it out with the new school guys, because there's so many young anglers out here now that's literally how they've got here and how they made their success. But you take that tool, you take that tool away from them, and they're really,
let's see what's
yeah,
up.
they're, yeah, exactly. So it's gonna make for a good event.
So this live scoping thing. So if you go for this practice round, are you not going to use the live scope because you can't use it during the tournament?
Where's that? When I go to Gunnersville?
Yeah.
Or no. When we go to Gunnersville, even for practice, we're not allowed to use it. I believe.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know all the rules on it, but I
okay.
believe when we go there, I think we get 2 or 3 days of practice, and you're not going to be allowed to use live scope then either.
I guess that makes
sense. So on that note, what's kind of cool with Major League Fishing and our Bass Pro Tour is, the people that follow it know that we fish 3 2.5 hour periods throughout a day. And what's really cool is with the live scope controversy is what Major League Fishing did this year, which has been amazing, is we are only allowed to use our live scope 1 of 3 periods throughout the day. Okay. And you have to designate which period you're going to use.
That's cool.
Throughout the day. So it's really it's been a really neat year, because it's forced people to kind of be good at both. You've got to use your live scope when you can use your live scope, but when you can't, you've got to be able to do it old school and fish without live scope as well. So, it's been a kind of a really good balance for both of them.
So have you personally witnessed some of these guys you're going up against? Have you seen them struggle without the live scope?
Yeah, without a doubt. If a person really follows our sport, I'm not going to name names. You can look at some of the anglers and see how they maybe dominated the last couple of years when live scope was in play all 3 periods. But now that they've went to this 1 period deal, the standings have changed a little bit. So, but what I'll say on that is, I will mention Drew Gill. Drew Gill is probably one of the hottest young anglers out there, and he's definitely made a name for himself. He's one of the best live scopers out there. And what's really been amazing to me about him is he's done the stats and is so confident, and he's proven it this year that he's like, all I need is 1.5 hour period in a day to have success out here. And he's proven that.
Wow.
And I'm not saying he can't catch them without it, because he's done that as well. And he's proved that as well throughout the year. But he's, I think he won an event this year with us, and he's right there at the top. But it's been amazing. There was one of the events at Chickamauga and Nickajack where Nickajack, he made the final cut, and the first period he didn't even fish. All he did was idled around and look for places where, when he designated his live scope period, he would know where to go look.
Yeah.
And he literally went from 10th place all the way up to they took the top 20 fish that day. The top 10 advanced and got to fish the final day. So if I remember right, he was in 20th place or something going into the second or third period. And he went from, when he finally turned his live scope on, went from the last place guy to making the cut and then some. Wow. Just in one period. So it's really amazing to see how good guys are with it. And I'll say this, and I tell it to people all the time, whether you use it as a tool to go out there and actually fish for a specific fish, what I love about it and what I miss about it when we can't use it is just the fact of the things that you can see under the water that you normally wouldn't have seen in the targets you can see, or a grass edge. You can make yourself more efficient by being able to fish grass edges under the water that you can't see, or a brush pile or something like that. It's not necessarily about seeing a fish every time and throwing at a particular fish. It's just about seeing potential targets under the water. And, even with that there's times where, let's say you're fishing, you scan across a point, you can just, and it may not have any cover on it at all. If you scan to the left side and you don't even see a fish out there, but you actually see some fish on the right side, at least which side of the boat to be casting on versus where not to be casting on.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a tool that definitely makes you more efficient on the water.
Yeah. It does, to some of us like myself who don't have the money to buy one, still seems like cheating.
I've
used them before ice fishing, and this shit was deadly. I mean, we drilled
it's an effective tool.
Scoped them out. You could see the pike, you see their bodies on it. It was crazy. It's crazy.
We go down to Lake Okeechobee or one of the Florida lakes in the wintertime for a tournament, and here we all are throwing lures, and you'd swear there wasn't a fish around and nothing's biting. And then you got a shiner guy that pulls up and he pulls out his 3 or 4 shiners and throws them out there for his clients and starts pulling in 4 to 8 pounders like it's crazy. And you're like, hold on, you're cheating here. You're using live bait, know? So it's just, all those, I mean, everybody has a level of how they like to fish, or how they pursue fish. And, the big thing now is kayak fishing. Some people like to keep it old school and go fish out of a kayak, or wade fishing, or fly rods, or whatever. So, the forward facing sonar is just another tool in the toolbox for guys to learn from. And it's no different like mentioning bow hunting. I mean, I like the challenge of bow hunting. Rifle hunting makes it a lot easier, but I prefer to bow hunt.
Right.
If people don't want to use forward facing sonar, they don't have to.
Right. But hey, it helps. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's expensive though.
Oh yeah.
Who makes the best one? Just out of curiosity, what brand?
Well, I am sponsored by Garmin, so I got to say I'm pretty partial to Garmin. Garmin was the first, and they were the pioneers of it. And what's crazy about it is, so Garmin they're actually headquartered 10 miles from my house. And I was one of the first few that had live scope. I had live scope before most people knew what it was. And, looking back on my career, I wish I would have realized what I had in my hands when I did. I mean, it's just been so fine tuned over the last 10 or 12 years. It's a lot different animal now.
Definitely. So, people are always saying I'm always open to learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learning as they grow. What are some
Yeah.
things you feel like you still have to learn or stuff you still have to work on to get better as an angler?
Definitely the live scoping. I mean, that's been the biggest thing, I think, as an old school angler,
Okay.
is when you grow up like I did, where we're a visual fisherman. You know, if I pull into a cove on a lake, I'm immediately, my eyes are gravitating towards what I can see, whether it be with my eyes, what I can visually see, docks or laydowns or vegetation on the surface, or I'm staring at my sonar, meaning like my traditional sonar or my mapping on my Garmin, going, okay, what kind of drop offs are here? Where now with the forward facing sonar, a lot of these young guys, they pull in there and they don't have that preconceived notion of, I've got to go fish that dock because it looks good. Their mindset is they just put the trolling motor down and they just start hunting fish with the live scope. And that's such a hard thing to do when you've grown up doing what I've done is where
Right.
we traditionally see we have to hit every target. I think that's one of the biggest things the last 3 or 4 years has really changed in our sport. And I think the eye opener there too was, I think we all had the idea that bass, at least for bass always stayed around cover. And what we've learned over the last 3 or 4 years is it's amazing how bass will just get out there and roam around in the middle of the lake. I mean, never did we dream that. And then, forward facing sonar comes along and proves us all wrong.
Wow. Game changer.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, it's definitely been a game changer. And like I said, it's one of those, I wish I would have known, early on how big of a tool it was going to be for changing the sport like it has. Now, obviously it's gotten a lot more sensitive and detailed over the last 10 years, but it's just been amazing how these younger kids, I guess, with more of an open mind, have learned it faster than probably some of us older people have.
They're just, they're born into this age where technology is everything.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
It's not like easy. It's not hard for them to figure shit out. Like,
right. Yeah. Oh yeah. And like I said, love it or hate it, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
And ultimately it's just another tool in the toolbox. And the thing I say to people too is, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
100%.
On that type of stuff. You can't be mad at certain anglers because they're going out and having success in a tournament because they're catching them with live scope. Well, if the rules allow it, more power to them. No different than if the latest, greatest, hottest secret lure comes out. I'm going to do everything in my power to win every tournament I can on that new secret lure, and I'm going to try to keep it a secret over everybody else. I mean, so yeah. It's an interesting sport. I mean, it's really interesting how it's changed the last 10 years, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Before we wrap up, one last reminder. The Brooklyn Fishing Club membership is live. 2 bonus podcast episodes every month, discounts, free gear, and access to our trips and events. It's only $100 for the year. Go to brooklynfishingclub.com and lock in your membership today. It's been a great interview. I really appreciate it, man. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to call it on that note.
Cool. Well, good deal. Well, absolutely.
Awesome.
Anytime. I enjoyed it. And
there was one other thing I want to ask you about. Sorry.
Yeah.
Pro versus Joe. I think it's a fucking amazing idea for a show.
Well, thank you. Well, we're
cranking these out.
We appreciate it. And I was going to tell the fans that you can go to Brent Chapman Fishing and, across any of the social platforms, and you can follow us. You can watch those all. I think we have all of them archived on YouTube, and it's one of those things that we've enjoyed, and we need every person to go out there and watch them and like them and enjoy them, and we're going to hopefully do some more of them here down the road.
You got to do one in New York City.
Now that would be pretty cool.
Bring a pro to New York City and put me against them.
I gotta say, I'm not a big city person. I'm more of a country boy, but I guess I didn't realize that there was bass fishing in downtown New York.
We got some really good fishing over here. You can even catch smallmouth bass in Central Park.
Really? Now
Yep.
that would be pretty cool to do for
Yep. sure. You get
So
Central
now I
Turtle
have
Pond.
more of an incentive to come to New York City.
Yeah, man. Let me know. We'll do it. We'll do a whole episode. We'll go out. We'll go get food. We could do like a
Hey,
cooking
that'd be all
segment.
right. Cool.
There's so much food. I mean, I'm constantly trying to diet because I just eat the best food over here, bro. It's like it's unbelievable.
That's the hard part of that, right?
It's a good problem to have.
Well, good deal. Well, super.
Definitely.
Well, like I said, I've enjoyed it, and hopefully your fans have as well, and look forward to doing it again sometime.
Awesome. Thank you, Brent.
All right, you have a good one. Take care.
All right, you too. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
All
Bye.
right, bye.
Don't you walk on me.